feel so. We're just vibing,
Zen.
chilling.
Zen. Okay.
It has been a crazy 48 hours, both in personal lives and in the wrestling world. But
Indeed.
we are like the Matt Seidels of the world, and we found our inner Zen. We're going to talk
Inner-
about him later tonight. But hello, all you Viconics wrestling nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of the Cleanup Crew Review, your weekly AEW Rampage weekly review show. I am one of your hosts, Mikey, and joined with me, as always, you know him, you love him. He is my brother from another mother, and Boricua, Adolfo.
Boricua! Billy Stark shout out.
Eh.
Saludos programas. It is I, Adolfo the Nerdy Puerto Rican.
Adolfo, I'm so happy to be here once again for another edited review of AEW Rampage.
Mikey,
This is really the only time we get to work together on a weekly basis outside of
but
Collision.
Just wait till we go live. We start doing live.
I'm so excited for that when that's gonna happen.
Indeed.
Of course, Adolfo, this was an interesting Rampage because it was mostly wrestling. We only had one backstage segment. And I was like,
yeah,
it was interesting. I was like, we get nothing but wrestling for an hour minus one backstage segment. Yeah. Alrighty then, let's go.
Right. Especially with everything that went down on Dynamite and with Revolution coming up, and it was just one segment. Okay, let's tell us the story in the ring. I was about it.
Like, they looked at the calendar. All right, we have 3 weeks until Revolution. Let's try to stick to the points here. So they decided tonight's episode is the How To for Dummies series. We're just going to get straight to the point.
Bullet points.
Rampage, brought to you by Spark Notes. Which is essentially what this felt like as a Rampage. I was like, let's just stick to the bullet points. We're going to give fun wrestling. We're going to continue to tell stories. And yeah, I also appreciate, and this is, I don't know if you've noticed this, Adolfo, this is just me. The last couple of weeks across all 3 AEW shows, they've done a very good job of making sure be like, we probably know not everyone watches all 3 shows, but you probably want to because we're building and we're continuing storylines for certain championships for Revolution. Like the Orange Cassidy thing, he was on Dynamite, and then he was on Rampage with Best Friends, and then spoiler alert, at the time of this recording, we saw him in the main event for Collision. Like, there's a thread line between all 3 shows.
Yep. Yeah, I feel that they have been doing a good job connecting all of the shows in a way that's not overselling the story, because I know, like me personally, with stuff that went down, I this week, and this is the first time that this happened. Actually, no, I lie. This is the second time this has happened, where I stopped. I'm like, I need to go and rewatch Dynamite and watch Dynamite so I can see what the hell happened, So they've been doing a really good job with the stories, I feel. Yes.
I loved it so much. And speaking of which, that's kind of what happened in this first match. Rampage this week kicks off with a trios match where we have Best Friends being represented by your AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy teaming with Rocky Azúcar. I don't care what nobody says. I love that nickname for Rocky Romero. Yep. And then, of course, Trenty Boy Trent Beretta as Chucky T is still currently out of commission due to injury. Mm-hmm. I have to say, I love how we got to this match because on Dynamite, they literally shook down Trent Beretta. Not Trent. Wow. They shook down Chucky T. Yeah, they're like, listen, we're going to go after your friends. Yeah. I was just like, what is this? I'm like, whose lunch money did you steal? Like, what happened? I was like, this is nuts. Yep. And I have to say, look, I might have an opinion on how I feel about Roddy and the way that he presents his character. His in-ring is always good, but as always for me, the Kingdom in Mike Bennett and Matt Taven, they're they're so good.
They are. Oh my gosh. They are really good wrestlers. Yes.
This was a
Yes.
baller match. I really enjoyed this match.
It was. There was a lot of energy. There was, it feeds into the whole match that's coming up in Revolution, where you have Orange Cassidy going up against um, Slick Mr. Mustache, which I'm going to call him from now on.
Slick
But
Ricky.
slick mustache, McMustache. But you had Adam Cole sitting outside. You had Wardlow sitting outside. They did not interfere. You know, um, I mean, yeah, you kind of had a whole bunch of interference with the other three dopes, but that's that's their thing. Um, and it was just a really good match. Everyone got lumped up. I don't feel like anyone kind of was the whipping boy, because like I don't know if you've noticed this either in like trios matches, but it always seems like one wrestler is left in there the longest, just getting thumped on, you know. Um, but everyone got their licks in. I'm not happy that Rocky Romero had to eat that pin. Not happy about that. Which it kind of feeds into a lot of the things that we've said. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but why could they not have Trent Beretta take that pin, or why could they not have Orange Cassidy take that pin? I mean, it wasn't for his belt wasn't on the line anyway. You know, he could have taken that pin.
So I'm gonna agree and disagree with you. I'm gonna get with the disagree out of the way. I don't, and this is just me personally from a booking standpoint. Even though the title wasn't on the line, you don't necessarily want your champion to be pinned in these types of matches, especially if there's no real stakes behind it. And then, of course, a lot of promotions, not just in AEW, but a lot of promotions, they try their best to protect the champions from getting pinned outside of championship matches and the big time pay per view matches as well. But I also agree with you in the sense I feel like Trent could have taken the pin here
Yep.
as well. But I think having Rocky take the pin here, and then consequently, what we'll talk about afterwards, or what happened to him afterwards. I think the Undisputed Kingdom is slowly making their way, dismantling best friends along the road to Revolution. So, therefore, when time comes for the match at Revolution, Orange Cassidy is going to have to fight by himself. So, I think Trent is the last person on the hit list, so to speak.
All right, I do see your point there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do see your point, and I agree. I personally feel that uh, had Orange Cassidy taken the pin and then had got the snot kicked out of him, like we're gonna mention later, and then come back against Ishii, and then even though if he got severely lumped up by the Kingdom, but came back and kept winning even after that, I feel that gives it a more like a more Rocky esque type feel, you know. Um, so, but not saying that I was disappointed with the story, and also with you saying how dismantling the best friends on the way to Revolution. Okay, yeah, I can see that. Just just as long as everyone gets their lumps, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Granted, we have 3 weeks until Revolution, so that possibly could still be the case. But
Right.
Tony Khan, we're gonna revisit this. I'm gonna put a pin in it for later, and we're gonna revisit this depending on how the rest of the story plays out.
Yep.
Because if, and I'm not saying I want to see Trent lose, but I mean it makes sense in the story. But if Trent doesn't get pinned or dismantled by the Undisputed Kingdom by the time we make it to Revolution, then I'm gonna be like, I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, so let's just jump to it. So the Undisputed Kingdom picked up the victory here. And
Yep.
then afterwards, they beat up on Mr. Azúcar himself by basically setting up a bunch of chairs and throwing, power bombing him
Powering them
into.
into the chairs.
I
Yeah.
was just like, ouch. I was like, at least it wasn't
Yeah.
Darby
Yeah.
Allin jumping off a 10-foot ladder into steel chairs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, in the context of the best friends getting systematically taken out, so that by the time Revolution comes, maybe at the go home before Revolution, Adam Cole or Porno Miss McMustache, comes out and says, "Where are your friends now, Orange Cassidy?" I can see that. Although, where's Danhausen?
That's what I want to know. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. I was like, did we forget that Danhausen was a part of this? Like, he's not injured again. So what happened? Like that Mickey
Right?
Mouse cartoon. What happened?
What happened? So,
Oh my goodness.
so
I
that's all I
know.
got for this match.
Unless, at Revolution it's just Orange Cassidy, but I'm like, you guys, Danhausen shows up and he curses everybody. That'd be hilarious.
That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. Is their match a actual Revolution match, or is it a 0 hour match?
So the beautiful thing about social media is because, and the rest of the boys get mad at me when I say this. I was like, they say it's gonna happen. I don't say it's official until I see an official match graphic. And yesterday on social media, AEW posted an official match graphic. So Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong for the International Championship is happening at
At
Revolution. So I'm
Revolution.
like,
Okay.
they made it official with a
Okay.
graphic.
Okay. Okay. So we might, if it's not 0 hour, the percentages of Danhausen not popping up are a little bit lowered. I
Mhm.
feel if it was a 0 hour match, there'd be a higher percentage. But with the way AEW's been lately, who knows? Who knows?
Definitely for sure. But, honestly, between this. So I'm gonna be honest. So quick tangent. Like this story, while it's not necessarily been my favorite, I'm happy to see that we're actually building towards a match, not
Yes.
waiting until like the
Yep.
week before. Be like, oh yeah, let's fight at the pay per view. I'm like, what?
Whee! Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so far, AEW has been doing a really good job on getting over half of their championships like this. So the
Yep.
International Championship, you have the AEW Women's Championship with the back and forth between Tony and Deanna, which I'm so excited for that match. And then of course we have our big feud, which is the multiverse that is Hangman, Swerve, and Joe, which I'm really
Yo.
excited for have
Yep.
that double turn on Wednesday was so beautiful to me. I was just like, hey man, went heel. Swerve is now kind of a baby face, which is really weird to say.
Yep. Yep.
So good.
A disjointed, violent baby face.
Disjointed, violent baby face. I love it for Swerve. Speaking of violent people, we get our tag team match next. We have local Phoenix talents, Mondo Rocks and Robbie Litt, taking on the EVPs, the Young Bucks, which is being represented not by Matt and Nick. It is Matthew and
Matthew
Nicholas
and
Jericho.
Nicholas. Yep.
And then they
Can
were being complete heels when they still showed up in the blood covered suits that they beat Darby and
right,
Sting with on Wednesday. I was like,
right.
I don't know if that's sanitary, but the visually, I was like, ooh, this makes me mad. You did your job though.
Yeah, definitely. I was 15 minutes old when I figured out what EVP what meant.
Honestly, I had to check myself. I was like, does this stand for what I think it? Okay, it does.
When did they get that title? Where did that come about? Is it
So, kind of breaking into kayfabe a little bit, like talking about the IRL stuff. So, the Young Bucks are part. They are EVPs for AEW, so they are like vice presidents and things of the company.
Oh.
So when AEW started 5 years ago, Tony Khan has kind of been in charge and funded a lot of this. But when AEW first started, the EVPs were, I mean, Tony Khan is in charge of everything. He's like the big company head. But then under that were people who used their own money to kind of kickstart AEW in the first year or two. And those EVPs were the Bucks, Kenny, Hangman, and Cody Rhodes.
Oh,
So they were all founders,
interesting.
and then they were like the executives for AEW and whatnot. And so for a while, they
Interesting.
were EVPs on paper, but they never brought them into their characters until now. So
Now they're
this is the
bringing it into the
first instance
characters.
that the Young Bucks are using their actual like EVP status as part of their heel gimmick, which I will say I wasn't a big fan of this character choice for them when this first started, but I'm slowly getting there. I was like, okay, I can dig this. And then the promo happened after the match. So we don't have to spend a lot of time. This is a squash match.
Yeah, I mean they won.
They
They beat the
won.
crap out of them,
The
and then
promo
yeah.
afterwards, it started off pretty well, and then it kind of just went way too long, and I was like, I was
Yeah.
like, you got too wordy. You didn't need to say all this extra
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it was weird. I
Yeah.
was like, we were so close, you guys. Just maybe cut like
Yeah.
3 minutes off of it, and then it would have been perfect.
It would have been perfect. Yeah, they definitely got too wordy. They definitely it felt like they were beating a dead horse. They made
Like, we
like
get
with it.
it.
Yeah, they in the first like minute and a half they made their statement, and then I didn't mind when who was it, Matthew or Nicholas took the mic and was like, I'm sorry, I have to apologize for my brother.
He's a
He's
bit
a
of a hothead.
hothead, right? Like, and that was fine. And I guess that's still within that minute 30 seconds. But after that first minute 30 seconds, it just kind of felt like they were beating a dead horse. We get it, you guys. You already came out in white suits covered in the blood of Darby Allin and Sting. We know the direction you're going. You're going, okay. It's and I actually when they made their the reappearance, I was actually hooked right away by the change because to me it was a extreme enough flipperoo. Whereas before, they were the Young Bucks and they had bright colors and they were, I mean, they still do this, but like, they were you woo woo and the razzle dazzle. Now they're like they're the EVPs. I don't even feel because if you look like on the graphic, they're not even called the Young Bucks anymore. They're called the EVPs. Like I don't, and even though the announcing is still calling them the Young Bucks, I feel now they should just be known as the EVPs. Forget the Young Bucks, just call them the EVPs. And it's such an extreme like switcheroo to we are no longer that, we are this. Uh, Especially with the heel turn. I'm on board with it. I actually kind of like them more now than when they were the Young Bucks. I don't know. I'm probably alone in that, and I will sit on this island by myself and drink my pina
No,
coladas. But
I, I like that they're heels, and like I said at first, because I don't think they knew how far to lean into it. They wanted to be at first. When they had that backstage interview with Renee a couple weeks ago over on Dynamite,
yeah,
and like I
okay,
feel that they were still trying to figure out how they want it to be, but I
yeah,
think they've kind of honed into it a lot more now. So I was like, okay,
yeah.
I can get behind these characters, and you know, I'm excited to see them because even though it's not an official graphic, it seems that the plan is going to be Darby and Sting versus the EVPs for those tag titles. And
Mm-hmm.
they're going,
Mm-hmm.
I love Sting and
Mm-hmm.
Darby, but they're losing those titles to the EVPs. They're going
Uh-huh.
to get those tag titles back. I would love to hear all the reports too. The fact I was like, so Sting got to pick his final opponent for his final match.
Yes, he
And
did.
so I can't even imagine like the Young Bucks being like, Sting comes up to you, hey, I want to fight you in this last match. Really? Oh,
Yeah.
snap. Okay,
Yeah.
hold up.
My
Let's do this.
my retirement match.
Mm-hmm.
The match that people are gonna think about years. Yeah, it's interesting
We
and
got 3 weeks to enjoy Sting
it,
before his retirement match.
yeah.
Listen, I'm a younger wrestling fan, but even I'm not emotionally ready. I'm gonna cry. I swear, I'm gonna cry.
I don't I don't know. I don't know. You know, my first run-in with Sting was at the old Ted Turner Broadcasting
Oh wow.
on cable. When he had the bright colors and
Mm-hmm.
the white blonde hair.
Right.
Um, and he was with WCW then, and I watched his progression in WCW from that to the white faced Sting when he was perching on rafters and fucking repelling up demonetization. Sorry, emotions starting coming out.
You're good.
Um, and started rappelling down. Like, oh man, wow. Okay, maybe I'm gonna be emotional about it. Okay, let's change the subject.
We
Next
got
subject.
3 weeks. We got three
3
weeks to
weeks.
emotionally prepare
We got
ourselves as
3 weeks.
best as we can. I'm just letting you all know when, like, during the watch along, there will be tears shed. It's going to happen. Somebody is
Indeed.
going to. I'm putting that on my bingo card. But we're gonna continue on with Rampage. We got 3 weeks to, emotionally prepare ourselves of what Sting meant to us.
Yep.
And we go into probably one of my favorite matches of the night. We have Mystico versus Matt Sydal. And I'm just like, this match was baller.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
so good. I'm like, Mystico's great. Matt Sydal matched the energy.
Yep.
This was amazing. It came close to being my match of the night, but this was not. But it only missed my match of the night choice by like a slim margin because my
For
match, yeah,
for
for
for for
in
like
ring,
wrestling
for
technique, for wrestling in
yes,
ring
absolutely,
technique, this was my match of the night. But like overall, no, yeah, it wasn't my match of the night, and I think we both agree on what our match of the night was. But that's beside the point.
yep.
Go ahead. Go ahead. What you got?
But
What you got?
this match was great. And okay, this is gonna give me some hate, but like this is how we do high flying action in wrestling, especially because Matt Sydal is also a high flyer himself. But
Yeah.
both him and Mystico are also trained in the like in ring to the mat type of wrestling too. It's not just
Yeah.
like let's do jumps and flips all over the place. There's actual technician in that as well. From a wrestling standpoint, this match ruled so much, and you know, I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I was like, Mystico picks up the win. I'm like, CMLL boys are kind of on a hot streak right now. They won most of their matches they've been involved. They've lost a few too, but
Mm-hmm.
they've been winning most of their matches that they've been involved in.
Yeah. When I saw this on the card, I was not sure how it was going to go. You are 100%. Well, let me backtrack. You're 100% in my opinion. And I do have to disagree with you a little bit. God, we're a lot of disagreeing tonight, Mikey. Yikes.
But
I have
that's
to
how we have a healthy dialogue. Take notes, internet wrestling community.
right. Um, I I can appreciate um the high flying wrestler when they're pitted against a like a big beefy, for example, like a powerhouse Hobbs, right? Like I can appreciate a match like that when they play to each wrestler's strength, especially because those big beefy guys, they can act like a good anchor for the high flyers to vault of and to work off of. I think that Brian Cage actually does this really well, where he pairs really well with high flyers. Although out of like big beefy man meat, I feel that Brian Cage moves the best that I've seen out of the AEW roster. But you are 100% correct, like in saying that instead of just putting like high flyer and high flyer against each other, these two, they also were mat tacticians, and you saw them, bringing it down to the mat, bringing it up to the ropes, bringing it down to the mat, bringing it up to the ropes, and it told a story. The match told a story, and it was a great story, and I was very entertained and very happy that Mystico got the pin, and it was a clean pin too.
Yes, which was important.
Yep.
I'm like, listening to this, I'm like, I don't hear a disagreement. I was like, you know what? Adolfo said the same thing I was gonna say. I was just like, I don't see a disagreement. I'm like, we're good.
Okay.
Be like, Adolfo, you're fired. No. Pull a reverse Uno. No, you're
Yeah,
fired.
no.
What? No. But I really enjoyed this match. And
It
I'm
was, yep.
happy to see that every week we're getting some form of iteration of the CMLL boys. I still think that my favorite iteration so far, even after watching Collision, was Danielson versus Echi Seto. I think that's still my favorite CMLL match that we've gotten in the last couple of weeks because Danielson and Echi Seto tore the house down.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I also love
Also,
Echi Seto's entrance. I was like, the Alchemist
I
gimmick? I'm like,
know,
how has no
so
one thought
good.
about this before?
It's so good. It's so good. Oh, the other thing I do want to shout out is Mystico's ring gear for the night.
Woo! So beautiful.
Primo.
I want it.
It's perfect. It was It was good. It was good. It was so good. I
It
love
was
the.
so clean.
I know, but it had like that hollow thing going, and then the gold like, yo.
And it wasn't like I use this term very lightly, and I mean this in a respectful way because it wasn't. But half the time when you get like when you go to the swap meet, some like when you go to the swap meet and they sell the luchador masks and they try to do like as best as a replication as they can, they overglass it and it kind of looks like very Party City esque.
Yeah,
This was not Mystico's gear tonight was not it for Rampage. So that's why I say I was just like it was clean. It had the right amount of
yeah,
sheen. And
yeah.
I need Mystico to let us know who the hookup is so we can get some for us.
Right, right. And then like, I don't mean to to have this boat going a certain way, but like the cleanness of his ring gear with the contrast of the darkness of his skin,
Mm-hmm.
it looked so good. It looks I it was so good.
It's
It was so good. It was
no,
good.
it's important too, like those little things because it's like
Yeah,
good. It's like color. It's like art color blocking 101. It's just like
fair.
aesthetically, it looks more pleasing to the eye when you balance out the light and the dark tones of things.
Yep.
And so, the lightness of the gear with the darker and as a bisexual man, the chiseledness of the skin as
Oh,
well.
he's
I was
yeah,
just like,
he's fucking yoked. I
I was
would
like,
buy him. I would buy Mystico a drink.
yes. I was like, take me home, jump in his arms. Ugh.
Yep.
But speaking of jumping into people's arms, and you mentioned big meaty men before, we get our only backstage segment of the evening, which
And
sees,
speaking of Brian Cage,
yeah, speaking of Brian Cage, listen, I would also buy Brian Cage.
Swolverine, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Wolverine a
yeah,
drink as well.
yeah.
So Brian Cage and Prince Nana, our favorite hype man right now in AEW.
Who's still suffering injury from from
The
Dynamite?
gentlest, the gentle. I was like Prince. I love Prince Nana. He's so down to take spots, and every time they do, like they always like make it so gentle. Like a couple weeks ago when he went through the table after the guns threw him through the table, it was
Yep.
the most gentlest like table break. They're like, slow down. There we go, bam. Like, it was so good.
Table. Okay.
But this is exactly what I wanted, post losing to Samoa Joe for Hook, because Brian Cage brings up the fact that Hook wants to still be involved in his business. And so Hook beat two guys. So guess what? So on Collision, you know what? I'm gonna do the same. Any two people in the locker room who want to come out and try to fight me, I will fight them. So one, we get to see more Brian Cage, which I appreciate. But
Yep.
number two, this is what I've been wanting for Hook. And I'm happy to see that Brian Cage is also getting some time on television as well, because now we're building a feud for Hook that is no more just squash matches. And we're now continuing to have him more involved in actual storyline feuds, which is what I wanted to see
Yep.
since the end of 2023. And now it seems that's what we're doing with it since, Hook losing to Joe for the title a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, for as goofy as the characterization was for Jungle Boy when he turned heel,
Mm-hmm.
like I at least appreciated that now we gave Hook and the FTW belt like a reason for being, because for most of the time, it just seems like Hook is just hanging out with the best friends, hanging out with Orange Cassidy, and
Yes.
I really didn't see him in a lot of 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 fights and a lot of belt defenses and stuff like that. And as I might be alone in this thought, and I will sit on that island by myself and drink my pina coladas. But if you ask a if you ask someone that is either new to AEW wrestling or isn't as involved in AEW wrestling as we are, as to, do you know what the FTW championship is? I have a feeling that most people will be like, the what? Because we just really don't see Hook on TV a lot, you know? And to me, from a business standpoint, I feel that's very silly, because that's a belt that, yeah, you could have. All right, you have two championship belts. You got the TNT championship and you got the AEW championship. Okay, fine, right? But now you have a third belt that you could have everyone else going for, But instead, well, technically, no. You have three belts. Then you have the Intercontinental. So now it's not like AEW doesn't have enough talent to be vying for all four of these belts, especially with the new ranking system uh, out now. Which, again, I don't know how that works, but I feel like it could very well, it could be a stepping stone system, like it used to be. Back in the day with the Intercontinental belt and the World Championship belt, you get the FTW belt, then you get your shot at the Intercontinental belt, then you get your shot at the TNT, and then you get your shot, and you climb up that way. At the least, it gives another prize, so that the other talent that's in AEW can fight for, that your Daddy Magics, that your Brody Kings, that your the Bounty Hunter, Keith Lee, that just became
Brian Keith, yeah.
yeah, Brian Keith. I'm sorry, Brian Keith, that just became AEW. You now, again, there's more than enough talent to go around. You know what I mean? So
Right.
put the FTW belt out there. I'm happy that Brian Cage is calling it Hook out. I'm happy that this storyline is going on. I'm bummed that it seemed like the Yuta Hook thing was just was a flash in the pan, because I felt like that could have been stretched out, but it wasn't. Whatever. Um, so yeah, let's get it on.
Yeah, and then one thing I will say, because I just thought about this, and you know what? It makes me excited more for Hook versus Cage, because the while Hook currently has the FTW championship, in the very infancy stages of the championship when it was brought into AEW, I completely forgot until I did some research. I forgot Brian Cage was a former FTW champion, so I was like,
Yeah.
you have now we're actually getting this thing as another championship, and you have the current and the former champ like going at it. I mean, it hasn't been declared for the title yet, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be heading that direction at some point. Like, I'm just happy to see Brian Cage get more screen time, and as a
Yep.
single star
Yep.
too, which is great. And
Yep.
then I'm happy to see Hook get pushed and have more storylines by himself outside of hanging out with best friends and whatnot.
Yep.
So this was great. I love Brian Cage. I love Prince Nana. And we get to see Brian Cage in action on Collision. Stay tuned for that review
Yeah,
later.
I'm excited to see what ring gear he comes out with next. So anyway,
Brian Cage is such a
moving on.
huge nerd, but I want to hang out with him so bad.
I know, right?
So good.
Anyway, moving on.
All right. Main event time. I was just
Main
like,
event
wow,
time.
we got here really quick this episode. Me and Adolfo said this before. This was our match of the night for
Match
lots
of
of
the night.
reasons that we'll get
Match of
into.
the night.
But your main event for this week's Rampage is Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander being accompanied by Stokely Hathaway, taking on the Outcasts, who are being accompanied by Harley Cameron. look, between the in-ring and the overarching narrative that we have built to get to this point, and just the storytelling between what's going on with the Outcast as well, this is our match of the night.
Yep.
Like, all
Yep.
four women were glad.
Yep.
They did really well. For me personally, I was really happy. It seemed that Saraya has finally kind of like, now that she was in a wrestling ring, I was like, you know what, Saraya, you didn't look half bad this week on Rampage. Like, I was like, I got worried for there because I was like, last time we saw you wrestle, it was kind of clunky and it wasn't necessarily the best. But I was like, you know what, girl, you did the thing tonight. I was like, yes, you know what, okay. I'm reminded why I like your in-ring ability too.
Yeah. No, this was definitely wrestling wise a great match to watch. It told a great physical story. Saraya looked really good. I mean, all the women looked really good. But yeah, Saraya didn't. Saraya looked at home, which you know it's funny that we mentioned this because when I was as they were coming in, as the outcasts were coming in, I do remember thinking to myself, was Saraya hurt? Is that why she hasn't been in the ring for such a long time? I can't remember. I don't think she was hurt though. Right?
Not that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah. So yeah, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, continue to impress as a tag team. The This is a great example of how to keep the story going, but to still, if someone like would jumps in and just watches this match, be like, oh my god, what happened? I need to rewatch other stuff to see how we got here, because that I'm gonna let you talk about it, Mikey, because I, lo- I love the way that you referred to this.
Piece
So
it together.
well, no, that you referred to this before we came on. So I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
So the match itself was fantastic. Saraya and Ruby looked great. We never have any. Me and Adolfo never have any complaints with Chris and Willow in the ring because they are phenomenal. All four were great. But the real reason we're all here today and what we're going to be talking about, more importantly, is this whole entire narrative that we have been going through for the last month or so with the Outcast. Saraya has been pulling some dirty tactics to get Ruby to stay with her and to still be a part of this little faction. So we're going to break this up into two parts because the first half was very Dawson Creek esque. So, as the Outcasts are coming to the ring, commentary and the cameraman point out that Ruby
Sips my
pulled
tea.
out, yeah, Ruby pulls out a little note from her, like the pocket of her wrestling tights, and she's reading it. It looked like a ripped up piece of notebook paper that got folded a little bit, and she's opens it up and she reads it. So the first question that we had was, what's on that note? But secondly, who gave her the note? Where did it come from? Like, what is happening? So as the match progresses on,
Wait,
I noticed
can
that.
I
Go
just
for it.
jump in just really quick? Ruby Soho, fantastic acting with the note, because as you came out, like you stopped, you pulled it out, you stopped, and you read it, and just with the facial expression and with that momentary pause was just such great storytelling in that small moment that everyone is like, what the was in that note, you know? Continue.
Well, because that's important too. And that kind of plays into what I was going to say. Because as the match progressed, we noticed that Ruby is kind of like being more hesitant to tag, Saraya out, like to be involved in this. And it gets to the point towards the end of the match where Saraya tries to go for a tag and Ruby jumps off of the apron, like letting Saraya like be in the ring, not being able to tag, and Ruby walks out. She's like, I'm done with this. And she
Yeah.
walks out, which allows Chris and Willow to pick up the victory here. So Harley Cameron tries to stop Ruby from leaving and she gets knocked to the
Got
floor.
knocked the
And Ruby just ups and leaves. She's like, I'm done. And so I'm just like, so that's the Dawson's Creek portion of it, like high school drama. The note, we need to know what was on it. We need to figure out who gave it to Ruby. And obviously now this is going to lead to Ruby and Saraya having a feud now, by themselves, which I'm super happy to see. Finally, the dissolution of the Outcast seems to be evident, and now it's finally happening. The Outcasts are no more since Ruby and Saraya are probably going to be feuding now, which is really great. So that was the Dawson's Creek portion of our Rampage review. And then we jump straight into the Buffy the Vampire, like Netflix version of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Because as Chris and Willow, first and foremost, I love
Spooky
Willow.
bitches.
Yes, spooky bitches. So speaking, before we get to that part, I love that Stokely comes into the ring to celebrate mostly for Chris, and then Willow gives him a big old hug and like spins him around. And then you can see him try not to break character while also hitting Willow in the back, like stop it, stop it, stop it. It was so funny.
Yep.
But then Sith Blue shows up.
Yes,
Sky Blue
not only
shows
Sith
up.
Blue, but
Yes,
her Sith Master as well, Julia Hart. Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, the lights go out.
Spooky.
Julia's standing next to Sith Blue, and they have a stare off with Chris and Willow, which was really, really good to see. So I was like, oh. And in my head, I was like, please, let's run this back. I really enjoyed the TBS match between Sky, Julia, and Chris at Full Gear. I was like, let's run this back. Now let's involve Willow in all this because we still have some unfinished business between all four of these women. And I'm so happy that AEW didn't discard that fact because I felt like after Full Gear, I was like, okay, everyone's kind of going their separate ways, but now we're coming back to it. And this is it seems to be that these four are our title contenders for the TBS championship right now, which I am not going to complain. Like this is a strong four for the TBS championship scene between Sky, Julia, Chris, and Willow. And these two teams have a stare off. And then that's how we end Rampage this week. We got Dawson's Creek, and then we got Buffy the Vampire Slayer / the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yep.
This is what I've been wanting to see for a very long time. Granted, we're having a good storyline with Tony and Deanna right now, but I'm happy to see that the other women's title is also having a storyline as well because Chris and Willow have their own thing going on. Sith Blue is under the apprenticeship of Julia Hart and House of Black, which is really great. And these four are going to be mixing it up over the next couple of weeks, which I'm very interested to see what ends up happening for, if Julia defends the title against somebody or if it's even a tag team match between the two at Revolution. And then we slowly build towards the title match. I want more of all four of these women. I don't care what iteration or capacity it is. This is what happens when you let the women do their thing and you book the women's division like you're supposed to. Now, I still want to see more than one women's match on Dynamite every single week, but damn it, I will give AEW credit right now because we have a few storylines going on and it shows that it's not that hard to do.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me that when Ruby jumped off the ring and just started walking out, you weren't like, yes, girl. Yes.
Listen, I might be bisexual, but I am part of the community, so I give the gay finger wag. I was like, yes. Yeah. I was like, yes.
Dude, I just hope that they don't pull how to word this so I don't hurt people's feelings. I hope that they don't pull the bad type of storytelling that they've been doing with Luchasaurus and Christian Cage. Right? Because
you're like, I'm breaking up with you, but you text your ex at the same time.
right. Because they've just it feels like they're working with this rift between Luchasaurus and Christian Cage, and then Christian Cage just says like some words into his ear, and then he's giving Christian Cage the freaking championship again, right? I hope that with Ruby walking out, that's it, right? I hope that there's no like, making up. I hope that I hope this does well. If there's a makeup, I hope that there is at least a 2 to 3 match brawl before a makeup. You know what I mean? And yeah, I hope that I hope this is the disillusion of Outcast 1.0, and then like Harley Cameron comes in and you have Outcast 2.0, because she's a wrestler. She's not just a manager. She's a wrestler. I've seen her wrestle before. Not, it's been a while, but like start getting her back in the ring. I mean, if this is what we've been building up for, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited with that storyline. I'm excited with the Siths versus the versus the Jedi that we're gonna have going on. Yeah, it was good. It was good storytelling. It was good storytelling. I'm really happy
Absolutely.
with it.
And I agree with you when it comes to,
Oh, that's
it,
the other
it,
thing.
yeah.
That's the other thing I wanted to say. That's the other thing I want to say. And on the flip side, if you want to keep Chris, Willow, and Stokely as that like dysfunctional family
Mm-hmm.
type situation, you know, that's fine. Just don't do the thing where Stokely starts seeing the seeds of sowing the seeds of discontent, and then Chris and Willow break up and blah blah blah. Like I it's I think that it is such a good dynamic where
Mm-hmm.
you have Stokely. Stokely's one end of the spectrum, Willow's the other end of the spectrum, and then you kind of have Chris just kind of like in the middle. I'm really enjoying that dynamic, and please don't break that up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do break it up, make it a dramatic breakup. You know, like have Willow get sprayed by the black mist again, and it's because she got hit with the double dose of evil juice that now she, Sith Nightingale emerges. You know what I mean? Which was kind of happening the first time she got sprayed, but then Sith Blue fully drank the Kool Aid, and Willow went to the light side of the force. But yeah, so if you're gonna do that, make a dramatic breakup. Don't just do the hokey like, oh, I don't like Stokely thing, just like, because it feels like that's been a trodden storyline amongst too many even recent storylines. Just don't do that. Keep them together. Not to mention,
Right.
there's enough heels in the women's division that
Yeah, we need to keep some of
we
them
need some
faces in
baby
order to
face. Yeah,
balance it out.
yeah,
This is a fun thought. I would love for this dysfunctional family to turn in where slowly Stokely's like, you know what, I like Willow, and then when the attempted miss to Willow happens, I don't know how they would play it off afterwards, but I would love to see Stokely jump in the front of it and like take the mist for Willow
that
instead.
would be that would be awesome
I
if
was like
that
solidify
happened.
and be like, oh,
That
you
would be
touched my
awesome.
friend. Like,
Yeah,
we'll
I,
see, and time will tell what direction we're going to take with this. But it seems this is either going to be what we're going to probably get at Revolution, which is a tag team match, unless we want to do a title defense for Julia. But you know what? I wouldn't be opposed if maybe we don't do a title defense at Revolution, but then we wait until, I don't know, Double or Nothing to do something like that. We'll see. But I'm really enjoying this. And this is how we end the stare off, ends Rampage this week.
yep.
So, Adolfo, like we
Eight,
do every
eight,
8.
eight.
Perfect.
Say no more. Eight.
Concise, to the point, Spark Notes, bullet point. We listed all our reasons throughout the whole review of why we thought this was 8. Fun wrestling, good storytelling, short
Yep.
and sweet to the point. Cool.
Yep. Yep. Just like Rampage this week. To the point. 8.
Cool. 8. Sweet. Love it. That was the fastest rating we've done all week, and I'm super proud of it. So, that brings us to the end of this week's Cleanup Crew review. Next week, Adolfo will be here live on the StreamYards, on the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Twitches.
And
Adolfo's face will be...
I will actually be on the Facebooks because I will talk to Mikey and figure out what that little glitch is that happens.
Yeah, so it's really simple to fix. We'll talk off camera.
We'll talk
but
about
yeah, so Adolfo will be live next week with the Rampage review. But of course, you can check out everything else we have here on the YouTube channel at the Biconics Wrestling Podcast. It's a great time. You can follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. And if you can't commit to watching our beautiful faces on a sit down, you could carry us with you on your favorite audio podcast networks, whatever you subscribe to, because now we have audio versions of everything: the reviews, our regular podcast episodes, the pay-per-views. Like, our faces for radio will carry you through a long day. Put us around as background noise. Take us when you're studying for a test, or if you're taking care of business on the porcelain throne. That is the perfect time to listen to the men talk to you.
Perfect time to listen to my voice. Ask my wife.
We love it. We love it. We love it. And we love all of you for tuning in this week. From myself and Adolfo and the rest of the Biconics boys, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Biconic, all you guys, gals, non-binary pals, he, she, theys, and gays of the internet. We will
Billy
see
Stark's
you.
Outro.
Yes, Billy Stark's outro. We'll see you for the next one. Until then, ta-ta for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.